On today's episode,
what would you do every day that you would love even if you were failing? Because the only promise I can make you about whatever goal you want is that it's going to be hard. Ultimately, a journey of 1,000 miles requires steps. You have to figure out what those things are that stand between you and that. Once you identify what it is that you're proud of that makes you feel good about who you are, you need to ask yourself one very simple question. Does that move me towards my goals or not?
it's time to go inside Quest with host Tom Bilyeu, president and co-founder of the second fastest growing private company in America. And now, he's uncovering the universal principles of success.
When you look at what holds people back, it's universally fear.
Inside Quest starts right now.
Thank you. Welcome to Inside Quest, everybody. We're the power station for your mind. Our goal is to deliver a continuous supply of energy to the grid of your success. While the show is a very selfish endeavor for me in that it allows me to bring on people that I really respect and pick their brains, at the end of the day, Inside Quest is part of our company strategy of bringing value to other people's lives. To that end, we'll occasionally be doing shows like today's where we spend all of our time answering your questions. But before we get to that, I just want to thank each and every one of you for engaging in this community. In true Quest fashion, we've gone from not existing to having hundreds of thousands of channel views and some seriously diehard fans, all helping each other to chase their own dreams. The opportunity to bring something like this to people and get the kind of outpouring of support that we're getting from everybody is really incredible, and we don't take it for granted. We've had people drive here from distant cities just to shake my hand. I had somebody offer to chauffeur me around in exchange for being able to ask me questions. We've got teachers who are having their students watch the show. That's a huge vote of confidence that we will work very hard not to disappoint. And people have sent me books and links to articles that they think will help me continue in my own personal development. And seriously, to everyone who sent me knowledge and engaged with this community on social media, I owe you a debt of gratitude, and you'll never know how sincerely I mean that. I really feel that at my core. You guys are helping to shape the man that I'm trying to become, and hopefully I can pay that back with this show. Last but not least, to the Reddit community that has intellectually nourished me for years and was so awesome when I did my AMA, I just want to thank you. So first up, let's see what we've got here. What exactly was it that broke you out of the matrix? This is coming from Instagram. Oh, this is going to be fun. At the Biggie Smalls. At the Biggie Smalls. On Instagram, what exactly was it that broke you out of the matrix? That's a really good question. Before we started rolling the cameras, I was talking to people. I know everyone wants an answer that's really simple, it's really codified, but the reality is when you finally start achieving something in your life, it's going to be when you're able to handle the nuances of what it means to grow and develop. So the truth is, it started with a string of little realizations that began to stack on themselves. But there's a few that I'll talk about that are the ones that I think of when I think about what finally got me out of it. And really a lot of this is summed up in Carol Dweck's book Mindset, which unfortunately I did not read. As I was going through the process of figuring this stuff out, I was living the day-to-day nightmare of being thrown into the deep end of the pool, trying to figure things out in business with real money on the line, not at all knowing what I was doing, and trying to claw my way to success. But realization number one was that everyone is going to build their self-esteem around something. And being able to identify what you build your self-esteem around is critical. Once you identify what it is that you're proud of that makes you feel good about who you are, you need to ask yourself one very simple question. Does that move me towards my goals or not? And what I found was the thing that I was building my self-esteem around was being right. And the reason that I had built my self-esteem around that was for so many years I had put myself in a position where I was always the smartest person in the room. So at one point, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, I actually referred to myself as the king of remedial jobs. And I said it with pride, and it really filled me with pride. And the reason that it did was I always went to apply for jobs where I knew I'm going to be the smartest person here. I'm going to be smarter than the person interviewing me. I'm going to be smarter than the other employees. And because of that, I'll walk in as the big fish in the little pond. And it didn't bother me, as much as it bothers me now, it didn't bother me at the time that I was a king of nothing, that it wasn't moving me towards what I was telling people I wanted out of my life. So in realizing that I'd spent my whole life trying to be the big fish in the small pond, and it wasn't moving me forward, that being proud of being smart, well, it felt good, and that's actually really important to acknowledge. It felt good. So I did it. Like, I don't know if you guys know Kelsey Grammer, had a massive cocaine problem for a long time, played Frasier. And whenever somebody asks him about his years doing drugs, he said, I need to point out, I enjoy doing cocaine. That was a big part of the reason I did cocaine. And I thought that's such an honest answer, and that's the one thing people don't really talk about. When you do dumb things in your life, it is almost certainly because that dumb thing is giving you something amazing. I loved being the king of remedial jobs. That felt good. Imagine walking into a job interview. Not only are you not nervous, not only do you not have any anxiety, you walk in knowing I am going to get this job. It will be up to me whether I want to take it. I'm in total control of this interview. And I would walk in and do that. But I was walking into like jobs I didn't actually want. I was just chasing that feeling of being smart. So realization number one was building my self-esteem around being smart was a losing strategy, because as soon as I encountered people who could actually help me reach my goals, then it was a problem because it attacked my self-esteem. So my business partners, Mike and Ron, you guys know them well, are just much smarter than me. Just on a raw horsepower perspective, the amount of data per second that they can process is greater than mine. Now, that does not diminish my self-esteem, because I realized after spending enough time with them that it was not wise to build my self-esteem around that. Like, if you're looking at a logistical problem and you compare yourself to Mike Osborne, you cannot help but feel badly about yourself if your goal is to be right? He's inhuman at that stuff. He sees the whole picture instantly and can pursue it. So I constantly found myself in a position where I was the underdog. I didn't know as much. I was feeling stupid. It was making me feel badly about myself. And in a desperate attempt to not feel badly about myself, I started arguing for my ideas. Which brings us to the next thing, which is you have to get over, not invented here. And it's the syndrome of the weak. People who want their idea to be the right idea without regard for whether or not it moves everybody towards the stated goal, those are people who have built their self-esteem around the fragile desire to be right, to be smart, to be better, right? And it is super fragile, because as soon as you encounter somebody better, smarter, faster, stronger, instead of learning from them, being inspired by them, they're diminishing you because you're comparing yourself to them in a really ignorant way that doesn't move you towards your goals. So I was arguing for these really dumb ideas. Usually I would lose, and okay, that's fine. There's safety in that because they would keep us moving towards our goals. But every now and then I would win. And when I managed to convince them of a dumb idea, I was immediately struck with panic, because I had a stated goal. At the time, this is no longer my stated goal. I feel very compelled to make that clear. But at the time, my stated goal was to get rich. So here I am, my stated goal is to get rich. I want to get rich. Here are these two guys. They know how to get rich. They've done it before. They're willing to teach me. They're telling me to do this. But because I so desperately want to be right, I fought for this, and now I just won. And now I'm thinking, oh shit, if they're right and I just convinced them that they're wrong, and what I really want is to get rich, this could be moving me away from my goals. And that was the beginning of me finally getting free from the matrix, was realizing that I needed to, and this is the third thing that helped me out of the matrix, I needed to do one thing of every decision and belief. Every decision and belief that I had to do one thing. I had to check it against whether or not it moved me towards my goals or moved me away from my goals. And I made a decision that no matter what, no matter how difficult it was, I was going to only do that which moved me towards my goals, even if it was really painful, even if it was really difficult, and I was not going to do that which moved me away from my goals, even if it was really fun. And those three things collectively, and there's a ton of nuance around them, but those three things collectively were what finally got me into a growth mindset. I no longer wanted to build my self-esteem around being right. I wanted to build it around identifying the right answer as based on what moved me towards my goals, and then putting more energy behind that than anyone else. And I began to build my self-esteem and my confidence by being that energy source, by being the one that was willing to push it through. And I'm sure we'll get to this later, but the story that we tell ourselves is incredibly important. And those three things really changed the story I was telling myself. I just stopped saying I was the smartest guy in a room full of really dumb people and started focusing on learning at all times. All right. Clarence, you had a question?
Okay, so I know that you have stated that you are reluctant to take on a student. I also know that you have stated that you are a Jedi. What would it take for somebody to, one, become your padawan, and what would be the first 3 tasks that you gave them?
Well, first and foremost, is I'm trying to become a Jedi. That's what I want to be. For me, life is that eternal quest, so I won't be foolish enough to stamp myself a Jedi. That's the thing that I love chasing. What would it take for me to take on a mentor? I'm going to be honest with you, and it's an ugly answer. And the truth is, if taking on that student moves me towards my goals, I'll do it. If taking on that student does not move me towards my stated goals, I won't do it. So the best example, Nick Robinson, yep, he's here in the background. When Nick started, Nick was my protege, plain and simple. We used to use that language. I was his mentor, he was my protege, and I wanted to build him up and ultimately wanted him to take over my job. So in the beginning, for me, I was the head of marketing. I did everything. I micromanaged him, and he ran everything by me. And he was so focused on getting better that it was a sight to behold. And every nugget of information that I gave him, every hard-won piece of knowledge that I had that I gave him, he put to amazing use. So it was like, whoa, here's somebody. Every bit of energy I put into them, I get back out at some multiplier 2 times, sometimes 10 times what I had put in. He's driven for his own reasons. And then over time, he became the master. And it was beautiful to watch. And we actually had conversations about what does it look like for a protege to stop being a protege, to step into their own and finally become a peer. And having gone through that, it is a beautiful process. But it is when people have the right mindset. It can be an ugly process, where the master is terrified that the student will know as much, if not more, than they do about something. And knowing when to play that card. But again, that's a fixed mindset. I don't have that, so it was a very easy transition for he and I. So it can be a truly, truly beautiful thing, but it's born of selfishness on both sides. So he wanted something from me, I wanted something from him. I needed to scale myself. And the only way to scale myself was to replace myself in given areas and move up higher in the pyramid. Because if I'm there every day having to make the marketing decisions, I can't do the other things that the company needs. But if I can train somebody in the way that I think, who will view the world the same way that I do, but is their own man, can make their own decisions, is a truly autonomous being with pride and joy and energy that I don't have to supply, now you've got something. Next one up here. This one is from @Langlock. What are some unspoken business rules more people need to know about? Yeah, I like the question because the things that I learned by running businesses is very, very, very different than what you're going to learn by actually going to school. And you'll hear my thoughts. I think school is valuable, but it's not necessarily teaching you the things you use on a daily basis. So here's the single most important thing that you need to know about business that you may not be aware of now. You'll have some weird inkling in the back of your mind just because you feel it every day when you come into the office, but you don't think it's okay to acknowledge. And once I finally realized, I'm just going to acknowledge this. I'm going to stop pretending it doesn't exist. Everything changed. And that was that you guys are all people. I'm a person. I have hopes and dreams. I have pettiness, I have selfishness, I have insecurities, and if I deal with the world, it's, if you guys know who Dan Ariely is, absolutely brilliant mind, this guy's amazing and lights me on fire. Wrote a book called Predictably Irrational, wrote another book called The Upside of Irrationality, and he talks about how economists always look at human beings as if they are what's called an econ, that they make perfectly logical decisions at all time. But the truth is people don't. The truth is people will argue for a dumb idea because it's theirs and because they build their self-esteem around being right and it makes them feel right. And if they can just win that argument and feel right, they will get a secretion of dopamine in their brain and they will be rewarded for fighting really hard for that really stupid idea simply because it's there. And they may not even understand why they're doing it. So if they don't understand why they're doing it, I sure as hell better understand why they're doing it because I'm all about these are not the droids you're looking for, which is about influence. Why do I care about influence? I care about influence because businesses are built on people. People have all these weird bugs in the system. They act fucking weird. Like people act weird, they act crazy. They act at total odds from what they say they want. It's really bizarre. And one of the things, it's bizarre until you really get into the psychology of why it is. Once you understand why it is, then you can have some influence over it. So that really is the thing nobody talks about. And I'm always weirded out how nobody talks about emotion. Nobody wants to connect. Brene Brown talks about vulnerability. If you don't know Brene Brown, look her up. Dude, I will be the most vulnerable cat whenever, because it tells people I'm real. It gives you real insight into me as a human being. Now, why is that important? Because you know I wouldn't do it if it didn't move me towards my goals. So even vulnerability for me is a strategy. But the reason it works is because I'm opening myself up as a human being. You're connecting with people on a real level. It is just a truth. Human beings want to connect with authentic people. And the people they distrust the most are the ones that they can't understand their motives. When you don't understand someone's motives, I'll speak for myself. When I don't understand someone's motives, they freak me out. I can feel them trying to move me around the chessboard, and I don't know why. I don't mind when I feel someone moving me around the chessboard when I know why they're doing it, because then I can decide if I want to move or not. But if I don't know why, there's just that resistance to being moved, the unknown, the unease that causes. So once I fully accepted that I was dealing with humans, that they didn't want to feel me moving them around the chessboard, that they would respond if I opened myself up to them, they would open themselves up to me, that they would open themselves up to each other, that we could really get some teamwork and some cohesion. If I hired for compassion, which is it just works in human societies. Humans are a social animal. Why does ostracization hurt emotionally? Because it's the most dangerous thing that could happen to you on the plains of the savannah. If you got ostracized, you got eaten. It was that simple. So for us, as a survival mechanism from an evolutionary psychology perspective, we've got to be able to bond and connect with other people. And once I finally realized business can try and abstract itself from that, it can try and rise above that with suits and ties and code of the way that things are supposed to be done and acting professional, I don't act professional. Literally. And if you guys have ever been with me in a high-level business meeting, Yemeni's going to back me up. I won't say the name of the company, but one of our largest customers in their corporate headquarters, I had one of them crying because I was just being real about my story and why I'm doing this. And they were touched. And it was like, okay, now I have I have connected with this person on a real level. I'm not trying to manipulate them. I'm trying to be honest about why I'm here. I'm being honest about why I fight. Now, that was weird for me in the beginning. It was weird for me to reveal so much of my truthful self because I really had to accept being rejected. I had to put myself out there in a vulnerable way because they could have laughed and been like, that's so ridiculous. What do you know about business? You're just a kid. But they don't. It's all about humans. Humans, humans, humans. If you are dealing with humans, don't fall prey to the structure that people try to put around it. It won't work long term. Any other audience questions? Yemeni.
We're a goal-driven company, and whatever goals we set for ourselves, we want to drive toward, and we have a lot of discussions around what it takes to accomplish goals. But what do you do to set your goals? How do you think through of the goals that you want to set for yourself?
So goals for me are critical. Because I weigh everything against them, I always have to think, is that really a goal that I'm prepared to set for myself? Because I will hold that against me every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, truly. And I've had goals haunt me because you choose poorly. Chasing money, that was a poor choice. It was a poor choice. And it really led to a problem that lasted 8.5 years in my life. And it's the darkest period of my life, and it wasn't until I finally realized that it was just a dumb goal. And if I had just set a different goal, I could have done something much more profound, and obviously Quest ends up being the answer to that question. So I look at the things that I have real passion for. I look at the things that I think could help 1 billion people. If it can help 1 billion people and I can feel good about myself while doing it, and it's something that I want to learn about, those three are probably the really big ones for me. And that third question, this is something I talked a lot about in my AMA on Reddit. You need to identify whether the business that you're thinking about starting, whether you want to know more about that business than any other human being on the planet. Because you might see an opportunity to make money, as we did with security software, but the question I didn't ask, that was our last company, the question I didn't ask was, do I want to know more about security software than anybody else? And I didn't. And because I didn't, I wasn't reading about it on the weekends. I wasn't taking Uber so that I could take notes on this really cool book that I was reading. And therefore, the people who did care about it, the people who were doing those things, they ate our lunch. They just had an easier time innovating because they cared. They wanted to know about that stuff. They weren't incentivized to do it. So when people ask, like, what should I, it usually comes in the form of what should my business be? Like, what business idea should I chase? The answer is, what would you be reading about even in neutral? What would you be doing if you didn't need to do it? What's that thing you turn to for pleasure when you've got free time? That's the thing that you should be doing. And when people say that they don't want to do that because they're afraid that they will fall out of love, that's literally crazy to me. That's so crazy. You've done something wrong in the way you set your life up if you can't go all in on that thing that you're deeply passionate about, right? To me, I liken it to love. If you think I don't want to be around my spouse, I can tell you one thing, you chose poorly. If you want to be around your spouse, go all in, man. That's a great sign. Like, I wanted to marry my wife, I wanted to live with my wife, be with my wife works at the company, we work side by side in the same department, like, because I am all in. You want to pick that thing no matter how weird and bizarre. If it's video games, own it. It's video games, rad. Find a way to do that. If it's sports, awesome. There are 1,000 entry points into sports that do not require you to put pads on and go on the field. But whatever that thing is that you would do in neutral, make it the central focus of your life. The central focus of your life. Give everything to it. All right. Ace from Texas. You mentioned you wasted a large portion of your life before Quest. What did you do during those years and how did that change? I think this is from Reddit. I hope the answer that I actually gave was that I sold that time cheaply. I learned an immense amount in that time. It's where I codified all the lessons about what not to do. And I liken it to learning like a child. How does a child learn? A child bumps into shit. They fall over. They hit their head on stuff. They cry a lot. They freak out. But slowly but surely, they start putting all this stuff together. And any parent will tell you, it is one of the most beautiful things to witness in your life ever, is someone who's learning and learning at that rate, because it's so transformative. That period was emotionally devastating because I had the wrong goal. I was chasing money, only to find out that chasing money in something that you don't care about, so you're spending all that time that you want to be reading about video games, playing video games, reading about nutrition, science, whatever it is that you wanted to be doing, you're now forcing yourself to grind it out and slog through the thing that you don't care about so that you can actually compete. So that was tough. But at the end of the day, it was a useful period in my life in that it taught me a lot of lessons. What changed for me was as those lessons began to stack up, I realized one simple thing, and this really became the defining moment where we decided to sell that company and start something from scratch. And it's one of those things, I know in hindsight, Quest seems obvious, and I know it seems like, yeah, of course, and look at what it's done. You guys made such a great decision. We did not make this decision because we thought it would be a great business. That's not why we did it. We made this decision because this company was the answer to one simple question. What would you do every day that you would love even if you were failing? And that was it. What would I want to wake up and do every day even if I was failing? And the answer for me was I wanted to save my mom and my sister. For Ron, it was he wanted to solve nutritional challenges that other people thought were impossible. And Mike saw an opportunity to get his hands dirty. And I mean that literally. It was that simple. He wanted to go back to building stuff, to thinking through problems that he found incredibly interesting. And I wanted to help people. And that was it. And I thought, okay, if we're falling on our face every day doing that, like I can get behind that. And then as it got going and I realized, what makes passion interesting, and this is just me, and I know many people vehemently disagree with this, but for me, evolutionary psychology gives me a context with which to understand my own behavior. Passion is one of those things that seems so universal to me in its ability to make somebody better at something. So I started asking the question, why? Why does passion make you better at something? And I realized the biggest thing that passion does is it gives you resolve. It gives you energy. Because the only promise I can make you about whatever goal you want is that it's going to be hard. Whatever goal you set for yourself, if it's big enough, obviously, I'm going to tie my shoe. Okay, sure. But if you're going to set a goal for yourself that's big enough to excite you, big enough to scare you, it's going to be hard. Running a business is hard. Being a parent is hard. Being the best employee at a company is hard. The only thing I've seen that gets people to fight through that difficulty is actually two. One is desperation. A truly desperate man is a man to watch, because desperate people will do the craziest shit to get out of their situation. I fully respect that. And that's how in the beginning, when we were purely manufacturing and we were in Compton and then in Paramount, I was meeting some of the most intriguing human beings I've ever met in my life because they grew up hard. They grew up hard. Generational poverty. One guy held his father while he bled to death from a gunshot wound to his head. Another lay face down under a hail of bullets as his best friend bled to death from a shotgun blast to the stomach. Literally watched him try to hold his own intestines in. Another one, his sister, and these are people that still work here, by the way. Another one, his sister was shot in the heart with an AK-47 when she was 12 years old, died. That's an unimaginable place to come from. But now imagine how hard they worked. Imagine, those were the guys that I didn't have to ask to show up at midnight. When something broke at 1 a.m. on a Saturday, I didn't have to ask those guys to stay. They were there because they were trying to make something happen in their life. So desperation is powerful. The other one is passion. When people are truly passionate about what they do, you just get a chemical rush. You get the energy. You become more resourceful. When someone who doesn't have passion because they don't really want to be there anyway, they will give up way easier because they're not having a good time. It's not in them. There's an awesome quote, I'm paraphrasing, but you'll get the idea. Don't try to change the world unless you seek change the way a man whose head is on fire seeks a pond. That is so true. Like, imagine what that would be like, right? Your head is literally on fire. Your ass is going to find some water. You will mash your head into the side of a rhino if you have to put it out, right? Like, you're putting it out. There is an immediacy to that need that gets humans to do incredible shit. If you want to change your life, you've got to tap into something that gives you that same feeling. For me, it's passion. And for the people that I've seen that have that passion, something is burning inside of them. Wow, man, you can do incredible stuff. Now the follow-up, I'll ask my own follow-up question. Well, how do you find that thing that you're passionate about? Since I know that's the next question that people ask. In you right now is the ember of something you don't want to admit to yourself. I promise you. And if you let me interview you long enough, I will get to that thing. And you will resist me trying to get to that thing for a very long time. First, you'll give me a bullshit answer. First, you're going to tell me that you want to be happy. That's useless. I need to know what makes you happy. I need to know how you plan to be happy. Okay? When people say generically that they want to be happy, they might as well tell me that they want a hit of meth because they're just saying I want a chemical state. Great. It's transient. It's going to go away. That's not very useful for you. Then, once we get past that you want to be happy, you're going to guess at some random things that make you happy. I want to be around my family, all that. Okay, well, let's put that in context. You're here seeking a job, or you're asking me a question about being an entrepreneur, and you're telling me that the thing that makes you happy is being with your family. I can't help you with that. In fact, I'm going to do the exact opposite. If I do my job, I'm pulling you all away from your family all the time. I'm trying to get you to commit so deeply to what we're trying to accomplish here that you're going to be absent just from a physical time perspective. And my only hope is that I light you on fire with so much passion that I send you back to your family full of joy, optimism, and a vision for you being able to do anything you want. Now that's infectious. Your family will love you for it, and they'll push you right back into my loving arms. But that's still not the truth. That's me feeding you answers. So once we get past that and we paint that picture, we finally get to I don't know, which is the truth that lies on top of the better truth that I'm going after, which is that thing underneath that you never thought you were able to acknowledge, that is the thing that you really want. And for me, it was finally admitting that I didn't have to wait for my family to make good choices. I could find a way to trick them into eating healthy. Once I honestly accepted that that's what I wanted, that I was not prepared to wait, that I was going to be a Jedi. I was going to walk up to somebody and I was going to get them to do things that was quite literally against their will. And I was going to make them want to do it. And it was going to be better for their life. And they were ultimately going to thank me. And I was going to do it without any force at all. I was going to do it by understanding them as a human being, by attaching myself to the things that were already working for me, their biological impulse to eat something that they crave, their biological impulse to soothe themselves with food. I knew, I've got all that. I know those levers are there. So now I just have to do the hard work of making something that's actually good for them that has all of those taste pathways. But I'm going to leverage that against them. Look at our packaging. That packaging, the Quest wrapper, the Quest box, all of our marketing materials. We do not show you people with abs. What we show you is delicious food. Because your ass wants to eat. You want to enjoy what you eat. And I'm trying to leverage that against you to get you to do the most beautiful thing you could do for yourself. And that was it. But it was finally being honest, right? I finally had to be honest with myself. I'm not chasing money. That didn't fill me with pleasure. I hope that money comes. Money's powerful. It's access to resources. It will let you do things that you can't even begin to imagine yet. And I'm not a guy that would ever say, oh my God, if I had $1 billion, I just wouldn't know what to do with it. I know exactly what I would do with $1 billion. So that isn't my problem. But tapping into something that gave me that immediacy of feeling good, feeling like I had this grand challenge, feeling significant, which is my personal motivator. Feeling significant, feeling like I'm impacting this world, right? Not just the people sitting around me, but this world. That gets me up in the morning, that gets me going. So once you get to that thing that you just, for whatever reason, I use video games a lot just because it's one thing, at least when I was growing up, your parents told you it was stupid, they told you were wasting your life, but in your head you're like, but I really love this. Like I'm not killing time, you understand that, right? Like, I'm angry. I'm about to throw stuff at my TV. Like, I'm not having a good time, but I love it. There's so much drive and passion for things like that. It doesn't have to be video games, but what is that thing that you don't feel like you can admit, that you want to know more about than anyone else on this planet? That the more you went into it, the more you learned about it, the more you obsessed over it, the more you acquired the skill set needed to be great at that thing, that you were having a better and better time. And that what would failure look like? Could you fall on your face every day? Could you be ridiculed by your family every day for this and still love it? If you could, that's your thing. But you've got to be prepared to be recursive. You've got to go back in yourself and keep asking that question until you get to the answer. I can't hand it to you, right? I can't tell you, go meditate, you'll figure it out. It's already there. It niggles at you right now. Right now, everyone listening to these words, I promise you, they know what it is. They just don't want to say it because it might be something that embarrasses them. You got to be bold enough to live the life you were meant to live. That's just that. I can't give that to you. Ray, what's up?
All right. Well, thanks again. And my question is, if you had a choice to interview somebody in this company, and that's outside of Nick, Ron, Tom, Yemeni, sorry, boss, who would it be?
To interview on IQ?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna surprise you with this answer, but it wouldn't be surprising once I did it. I would interview Chris Van de Polder. Chris and I have been best friends since 19, 20 years old. I've known him for a very, very long time. We have changed as human beings together, and it's been very fun to see. But any one person only ever gets to see Chris at the current thing that we're doing. So you guys get to see him at Quest, and you think, oh my God, the guy's amazing at food science. So yeah, I mean, of course, that's Chris. He's great at food science. But at the last company, it was Chris, and he was great at computer science. And before that, he was great at what he was doing there. He is the ultimate embodiment of a learner. It does not matter what endeavor you encounter. He will play at the highest level. And to be able to ask him those questions, the things in his mind that have led him to that, because the way his mind works is utterly fascinating. He's very much in Mike's camp, where he's not bombastic. He's never going to be the guy calling attention to himself. He's just quietly assassinating every skill, every problem in front of him. It just gets done. And that's how he's always risen up. You don't even have to tell people about Chris. Literally, just have him there. And in 3 months, everyone will be trying to get on his team, trying to have him lead the project, whatever that looks like, because it will get done so well, and he's able to rally troops, and he's able to let people shine, because there's two kinds of leaders. You get leaders who like other leaders, and you get leaders who hate other leaders. Chris likes other leaders. So he attracts the highest caliber talent because he's not afraid to shine himself, and he's not afraid to let other people shine. He's not insecure like that.
I'd love to know, to you, what is a good friend?
You sure you're ready for the answer? You can't handle the truth. Here it is. This one's really easy. This is one that people really get intellectually, but when you have to go to embody it is when it gets hard. What I look for in a friend, I don't want sympathy. I don't want sympathy. Sympathy is what you have when you have self-pity for yourself. And when you pity yourself, you have no problem pitying other people. I don't pity people. I have all the empathy in the world. When people are in pain, I feel that pain. What I need from my wife, and this woman is ninja level at this. Ninja level. Honestly, Quest wouldn't exist today, at least not in the form that it does, without her, because back at our old company, when I got just to the point, an emotional breaking point, it was her that gave me exactly what I needed in a friend, and it goes like this. When I'm dropped to my knees, do not get on your knees with me. Do not put an arm around my shoulder and tell me everything is going to be okay. Stay standing. Offer me a hand. Pick me back up to my feet. Brush me off and paint a vision for success. Show me how I'm going to overcome this. Help me become the person that I'm trying to be. Help me be the person you believe I can be. And rebuild my sense of confidence. Rebuild that thing that I need to move forward. And that is my wife. But that shit is hard. Because when you're on your knees, what you really want is someone on their knees with their arm around you. Misery loves company for a reason. So in that moment, to actually be able to do it in a way that the person can hear, to help them back up, to brush them off, to paint that picture without just making them feel hopeless and alone, right? Because when you cry out for somebody and they come with, you got this, man, you can do it. It's like, that's not what I want to hear. Like, just put an arm around me, tell me everything's going to be okay. So it's finding somebody that can get you back up, that lets you know, man, I'm here. Like if you need to wallow for a bit, I'm here. I'm just going to sit here chill as hell. I'm not going to say a word. And when you're ready, I'm going to pick you back up. That's a friend.
Okay, so when you don't have someone around, when you're having a bad day or something that is not going your way, how do you snap out of it or shift your mindset if you're starting to go a little bit dark? Like, do you have a mantra or something physical that you do to kind of snap out of it?
Very, very much so. I'll answer that in a couple ways. So we all have our limitations. One limitation I have, it is very, very difficult to put me in a dark mood. But once I go. And I go all the way. It's how I do everything in life, right? Most things I just don't mess around with. I'm not going to get involved in that. But once I decide to get involved in something, I'm going all in. Like, that's it. No stopping, all the way. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just race. And it's the same with a bad mood. And we actually got a couple questions like this on Reddit. So for the peeps, sorry, I don't have quick access to your screen names. But for the people that ask this question at home, in my marriage, it is very clear to me that amazing communication, amazing relationships do not happen by accident, and they take a lot of work. And I don't mean work in that it's a slog or it's grueling, it's beautiful. And I've gotten nothing more rewarding out of life than I've gotten out of working to build a sense of trust and communication with my wife. So it would happen every now and then. I would get and something would happen. And here's what I always tell people. Let's say that my wife did something wrong and she pissed me off. And for real, like I have every reason to be hurt. She has actually done something to violate our code. Whether she meant to or not is irrelevant. She has, right? And now I'm upset and I have every reason to be upset. So then I'd just be pissed off all day. Like totally inconsolable. There's nothing that she could do, because as she tried to console me, I was like, wait, like you've got incentive, right? You've got motive to cheer me up because you feel bad and you don't want to feel bad. But you actually did something wrong, and that wrong must be punished. And then I would find that we'd lose an entire Saturday. And with enough time passing, finally I'd be like, I just didn't feel it anymore, right? The anger had dissipated and I was no longer angry. And every time, every single time, I was like, why did I waste my whole Saturday being annoyed? This woman loves me. She wants good things for me. And even though she upset me, she didn't mean to upset me, right? She did. And yes, I had every justification to be upset, but she didn't mean to do it. So as long as I believe that she loves me, as long as I believe that she didn't do it to upset me, what good was it staying angry all day? So I wrote myself a letter. And the letter went something like this. Hey, me, it's me. I'm writing to you from a sober emotional state, and I'm letting you know right now that you may have every reason in the world to be pissed off right now. But you know, once enough time passes, you will regret having stayed angry. The other thing that you know is that if you fake a smile long enough, that smile becomes real. That's real, by the way. You can look this stuff up. It is amazing. So right now, this is actually how the letter read. Right now, no matter what just happened, I want you to laugh out loud. Go ahead, laugh out loud. And I would force myself to laugh out loud. In the midst of my fury, having been hurt and upset by the one woman who's supposed to love me, and I would force myself to laugh out loud. And it worked. And I gave her that letter. And I said, the next time I get pissed, read that letter to me. So, and I said, I'm not going to want you to read it, but read it. She only had to read it once. It was so powerful, and I laughed out loud, and I felt like such an ass laughing out loud at the height of my anger that then it really was funny. And I really did laugh, and it really did clear the brain chemistry, and I really was then in a much better mood. And then I thought, whoa, could I get to an emotional level where I can stop myself from needing the letter to be read? Because I know now that these tricks work. I know now all the things to say to myself to get myself to that point. So can I completely break out of this paradigm of allowing myself to get trapped in an emotion that does not move me towards my goals, right? Because of everything I do and believe and feel, I ask, does it move me towards my goals or not? And if my goal is to have a wonderful Saturday with my wife, allowing myself to stay angry does not serve me. And so I just worked at it and got better and better and better and better and better being a timeline, right? So if at first it took me 8 hours, I got it down to the point where it takes me about 3 seconds. Usually I can stop something even from registering on my face, and then I will explain in a super calm way to this woman whom I know loves me very, very much, wants good things for me, has proven that she wants good things for me, has had chances to do me dirt and never done me dirt. This woman who has so much credibility with me emotionally that I'm just going to let it go and speak very calmly and explain even when it was a petty reason why something upset me. And by acknowledging it and her then reciprocating that she acknowledges that even though that emotion may be petty of yours, may be based on an insecurity, she hears me and understands that it's something that did upset me, and then gives her a chance to qualify, explain, whatever, and we move on with the day. That has been incredibly, incredibly powerful for us. Now, as it relates to business, one thing that I always try to get people out of, don't ever sit in a belief, a mental state, anxiety, worry, anything, unless it's moving you towards your goals. If it's moving you towards your goals to sit in a state of panic, then sit in a state of panic. If it's moving you towards your goals to worry and to hate yourself, then worry and hate yourself. But if it's not moving you towards your goals, stop. Stop. Like, why are you doing it? The only answer is you're doing it because you believe you need to be emotionally punished, and you're the only one to dish that punishment out. And then I will ask you, does punishing yourself move you towards your goals or not? And if it does, great. But if it doesn't, stop. Or you're doing it because you're truly a slave to your emotions. Don't be a slave. Don't be a slave in anything. Don't be a slave, okay? Don't be a slave. And that realization changed my life. All right, let's take one from the internet here. Oh, your username is weird. Username, it's binary code almost certainly, so zeros and ones. Is it wrong that all I want to do with a business is make money? It's not wrong, it's just not very effective. So let's go into, of all of our decisions and beliefs, we ask one question, does it move it towards our goals or not? I have found that the worst way to make money is to try and make money. The reason is that now, especially because we live in a hyper-connected economy, Seth Godin calls this the connection economy, the rise of social media has really made even business transactions all about connecting with somebody, a group of people, whatever. And the way to connect with people is to be authentic and to bring value to their lives. So if your sole goal in building a business is to make money, that's fine as long as you can do that by adding value to their life. I will just say that adding value to someone's life requires a few things. One of them is knowing more about the product or service that you're going to use to bring value to their life than anyone else in the world so that you can outperform the competition, which means you're going to have to go down a rabbit hole. I'm just saying choose a rabbit hole that means something to you, that's very meaningful to you. And in that rabbit hole, that mission, if you will, hopefully you will find something that is far more compelling than money. Because here's what happens with money. Money is less and less motivating the more and more you get of it. Missions, on the other hand, the closer and closer you get to making it real, the more momentum you have behind accomplishing your mission, the more energy you have, the more people you can attract to your mission. And it just keeps going, and it's a virtuous cycle. Money will tap you out. It's kind of like people say you sleep your way to the top. You don't sleep your way to the top. You sleep your way to the middle. If you're going to build a business based on money, I promise you might get to the middle, but you're never really going to build a huge business. And I'll use two of the richest people as examples of that. Your boy Bill Gates, he was all about getting a desktop on everyone's computer, and we see that really did change the world. That was a pretty worthy goal to have. Did he get rich in the process? Absolutely. Warren Buffett, who may seem on the surface like the man who's most purely motivated by money, but he won't even give it to his kids. Why? Because he knows it would rob them of the joy of playing the game. The game for him is the juice. The money is a scorecard. He just wants to see how many points can I score. And that's why he lives a very average life. He's lived in the same house for 30 years. This guy could buy countries, and he lives in the same house in Nebraska. But he lives there. That's the life he wants to lead. It's not about the money for him. He really does have a mission to see how many great companies he can build, how far he can rack up the score. So find that mission. The money will come much more easily because you'll have the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm required to do the things you need to do to actually generate money. Because the days of bamboozling people with great marketing, they're dead. All right, back to the internet here. How do you motivate yourself to keep stepping forward on days when you don't feel amped up? So that ties a lot into some of the things we've talked before, so I'll keep this one brief. I really do ask myself of every decision I make. So, hey, I'm laying in bed and I really want to snooze it one more time. Would that move me towards my goals? Yes or no? Now, that's an intellectual game, and at some point you have to make it emotional. It's got to become visceral, otherwise you won't have the energy to actually get out of bed. It's also important to note, despite what people tell you, motivation is not, I repeat, is not a limited resource. Think about this. You just ran a marathon. Man, you were tired. You're wiped. You fall over. You couldn't possibly run. And then you see the person you love most in the world about to get attacked by a lion. You get up and run over and get him away from the dangers. That's that, right? In that moment, you would find something within you that you didn't think was there. Like people would jump out of hospital beds, like whatever it took, because now the motivation is strong enough to get you to act. So the next time you're feeling like, you're not feeling amped, like how am I going to drag myself out of bed? That is a motivation problem. You're not feeling connected to your motivation, or you don't have motivation. So I use the intellectual trick of asking myself, does this move me towards my goals, yes or no? Once I realize that getting up and being active, even when I don't want to be, is what moves me towards my goals, then I find a way to make it emotional, and I start thinking about the results. So I'll use the gym, because as you guys know, I hate the gym. But I go to the gym 5 days a week without exception because of what it does to my mind. To get myself to go into the gym, I don't think about the suffering that I'm going to have to endure in order to get the results that I want. I start fantasizing about what it will be like. And I remember before I had six-pack abs, like that was an awesome fantasy. Like I couldn't imagine. I grew up the chubby kid, so like the thought of having six-pack abs, like them being real, was like someone telling me that I could hide a unicorn under my shirt. It was like just too amazing to pass up. So you just start focusing on that. Focus on the result. Focus on the thing that actually gets you excited. And if nothing gets you excited, do something else. All right, back to the internet we go. David Parsons, how do you go towards your goals? Do you look at it every day and visualize completing it, or do you break it down into actionable bits and only focus on those bits every day? I promise you, he's English, using words like bits. I love you already. Okay, I break things into bits. I think that's really the only way. So I, at all times, have a grand vision for what I'm trying to accomplish, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to accomplish that afternoon, and every quest that you're on, no matter how big or small, can be broken down into steps. Ultimately, a journey of 1,000 miles requires steps. So you have to figure out what those things are that stand between you and that. Could be the acquisition of a skill, could be making a phone call, could be making a product or a sale, whatever those things are. And I keep a detailed list. I have it on me at all times. I use Evernote, so truly I have it on me at all times. And it is titled, The Only Thing That Matters. And I focus on those things, and I go through the list. Sometimes I start at the top and work my way down. Other times I start at the bottom and work my way up. Sometimes I start in the middle and go crazy, just to make sure that I'm always touching those things. If, when I come to one of those bits and realize that for the last few weeks I haven't taken action on that, that bit falls away, because clearly it's not that important. And I make way for the other things that really are important. And I absolutely obsess over that list. If you guys have ever wondered why I shut the door in the mornings, it's because I'm going over that list. That's what every morning is about for me. Oh, and stop checking email. If you get one thing out of this conversation, stop checking email. And if you absolutely have to check it once or twice a day. Use Tim Ferriss's batching method. But do not, under any in fact, if you're in my downline, I'm going to have Jerome walk around with a stick, one of those meditation sticks, and if he sees you reading an email before like 11 a.m., he's just going to hit you with a meditation stick. Because you're letting other people control your agenda. What are you doing? I don't check email because it lets other people control my agenda. And that is me admitting I don't know what to do with my life. I need other people to control my life. Are you really willing to say that? Like, I don't care how amazing your supervisor is. Are you really saying that they get to control your time? What? Like, your supervisor should do one thing and one thing only: set the objective. The way I see it, as a boss, I can either tell you what to do or how to do it, but not both. Because if I tell you both, you become a puppet, and I've yet to meet a human being that enjoyed being a puppet. Therefore, puppeteering you does not move me towards my goals, because I want to attract the highest caliber talent that this world has and keep them here for a very long time. If I puppeteer them, they will leave, because that's not fun. You don't get to see what you're capable of. You don't get to struggle and fail and learn and grow. So don't let other people tell you how and what you should be doing. And that is exactly what you do with email. You respond. You let that person have that time and pay attention to that thing. That is criminal to me in the extreme. And people are doing themselves a disservice because I say in a funny way that I don't check email, and I say it so loud and so aggressively that people just sort of, it's become a bit of a joke around here. But I'm deadly serious. I don't check email because I'm not going to let anyone else control my time. I am way too hell-bent to actually achieve the goal of ending metabolic disease. So every decision I'm asking, is this going to end metabolic disease or not? And what are the chances that my inbox happens to be in order of the things that I need to do to end metabolic disease? Can we all agree it's 0? So the fact that you guys walk in and check your email like that, I weep for you. I weep for anyone who wants true success in their life if you open up your email first. Like, that is legitimately crazy. So Tim Ferriss, thank you for introducing me to the principle. I read The 4-Hour Workweek. The kid made it nice and super clear, and I've been enacting it since I read it, and I read it like 8 years ago. So boys and girls, it's not like you can't achieve if you stop checking your email.
So what is like a physical accomplishment that you want to do, such as climbing Mount Everest? Is there any physical feat that you want to accomplish before everything's said and done?
I'm a bizarrely non-physical guy. So I'm a terrible athlete. I'm ridiculously clumsy. Athletics has never been my thing, so I don't even really think in those terms. What I think in is mental terms. What are the mental things that I want to be able to accomplish in my life? And those are legion. I sum it up by saying I want to be a Jedi. At the end of the day, it's really about persuasion. It's about being able to control my own emotions and being able to guide the emotions of others in order to get them to do something beautiful for their life. Right? I want Quest to be the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to anyone who encounters it, whether it's as an employee, whether it's as a vendor, or just a customer eating the bar. That's the goal, to make it the most beautiful thing that's ever happened in their lives, which means it has to serve their goals, their desire for success, not mine, not even ours. It has to serve theirs. So those are the things that I think a lot about. What are the mental skills that I have to acquire in order to get good at that?
People say that physical activity can help you excel your mind, and it's a gateway to overcoming it. So wouldn't you think that is somewhat of a fixed mindset to say that you're not athletic or not able to do those type of things?
I have mad respect for you right now. So let me answer it in a different way. Being physical is incredibly important to me in the way that it lets me access my mind. That's why I start every day, Monday through Friday, and I do cardio on the weekends. But Monday through Friday, I lift weights and do cardio. And I do that as a way to access my mind. I believe that I could get good at sports if I wanted to, but it's not important enough to me. And I like to stand next to Ron, who's significantly bigger than me, and I like to say, you can see this is exactly how important muscle mass is to me. Because if it were as important as it is to him, I would look like him, but it's not. And that's as important as it is to him. Otherwise, he would look like me, right? So you can, when you look at people, you can see what's important to them. Like that to me isn't a knock on me. My body is an exact representation of how important it is to me. I want to be lean, I want to have muscle mass, but I'm not interested in putting in even more time of doing the calculus of figuring out how to add more size, or even just suffering more and doing more. I could do it, I could figure it out for sure. Look how many amazing people have done it, and they've done just awe-inspiring things with their body. That's just not my gig, right? I'm trying to get in and out of the gym as fast as I can so I can get back to reading. That's my shtick. But I do love that you called me out on a potential fixed mindset. All right, we've got time for a couple more questions, so if we've got some in the audience.
Earlier, you were talking about being a mentor. Do you have a mentor, and who and why?
I've had many, many mentors in my life. The most profound mentors are authors. So when I look at if you were gonna really force me to tell you what the secret to my success is, very simple. I read a lot. And when I say that, however much you think that is, I read a lot more than that. So to give you an idea, first of all, I do all my books on audiobook because I can listen to them at 3x. It means 3 times the speed. They sound like chipmunks, but it's amazing because you can get the information really, really fast. I listen to books while I shower. I listen to books while I brush my teeth. I listen to books while I change my clothes. I listen to books while I'm driving. I try to listen to books 365 days a year. I am trying to encounter new knowledge. If you've ever really paid attention, in my office, above my head, I have the most important sign hanging, and it says II equals IO, which stands for ideas in equal ideas out. If you really want to come up with new ideas, things that are uniquely you, you've got to cram your brain full of all these other ideas that are out there. Because it's not about having a unique idea, it's about making unique connections between those ideas and using them in a new way. It's startling when you read the Stoics and the classics written so long ago, and yet they're still relevant today. I don't think people should be disheartened that people came across all these brilliant ideas back then and oh my God, there's no new ideas. There may not be new ideas, but there's new context, there's new connections. Put it all together, it will come out in a very unique way that is unique to our time, unique to your circumstances. So ideas in, ideas in, ideas in, you've got to get them. I'm totally obsessed with reading. And I hated reading as a kid. So if you're thinking right now that you hate reading, it's total BS. Don't allow yourself that excuse. Ask yourself, does it move me towards my goals or not? And I promise you, not reading does not move you towards your goals at all. All right, final question. Yep.
So you obviously have a voracious appetite for reading and for attaining knowledge and learning. And you've shared a list of 25 of your top books, I believe, with some of us. You are hugely passionate about film as well. I'm wondering, do you have like a top 3 of your most like profound films or films that have affected you the most? And do you think you'll take a stab at making a film ever?
Yes, so I absolutely have films that have impacted me tremendously. I'll give you 2. The Matrix is the most influential movie in my life. To me, codifying things is so important, and if you're not familiar with that word, codifying is simply the act of taking sort of abstract notions and making them very concrete, turning it into a list or an idiom, something that you can repeat. It's making it so it's easy to transmit, right? Turning it into an instruction manual. And that movie codified for me the feeling that I had, that I was lost, that my life could be different, that I could be different, but I just didn't know how to make it true, and something was stopping me. And then it showed me the path, right? The realization that I was self-limiting. I mean, that's really the moral of the Matrix, right? You really think that's air you're breathing? It's pushing him past the limits that he's put on himself mentally. In the end, I've watched the movie so many times you can't imagine, and right now I have the chills from thinking about the part that I'm about to tell you. When they shoot the guns at Neo at the end and the bullets are flying at him and he just goes, no, and they stop, oh my, like that's what I'm going for. Like that's it, that's the shtick for me. Like to get to the point where people can assail you for whatever reason. Obviously I'm not trying to block bullets, I'm just gonna try to A, be not in a place where bullets are flying. That's step 1. And step 2 is just get the hell out of the way. But what it stands for, what the metaphor is about, getting to that point where you have control not only over yourself, but you have control over the outside world. And I'll give you an example of control over the outside world as I see it. I look at people eating unhealthy, Everyone else is telling you eat less, exercise more. And I know that's not the answer. If I actually want to have an impact, if I actually want to control the outside world, I have to acknowledge the real way that that's going to happen. There are biological impulses way more hardcore than my current abilities that are leading them to eat things that are sweet, that taste delicious, that are convenient, all that. Why don't I just give them one of those, but do the really hard work of making it healthy? And that was my matrix moment. That was me saying no. And the bullets just stop and pick them out of the air and they drop, right? Because you actually figure out this world. There's a great quote from Steve Jobs that sums up the matrix as well. Once you realize that this world is built by people no smarter than you, you realize you can do anything. That's a paraphrase, but the quote is very, very famous. And that was, I wish it had been said, it's tough. I wish it had been said by someone other than him, because it's so easy to look at him and go, well, you're a super genius. It's easy for you to say that. But that has held true for me. And I really went from being the kid and still to this day. I think I have increased my IQ, but even now, if I took an IQ test, it's not going to be off the charts. And IQ is not a predictor of success. But I have met opportunity after opportunity where I realized, wait, I can do this. I can walk into this room and make demands. I can walk into this room and be me. When you figure that one out, when you realize I'm going to walk into this room and be me, and if they love me, fantastic. And if they don't, so what? Because I know the super secret to humans. If you've got the guts to be you, somewhere deep inside that person, even if they show you nothing but hate, they respect you so much because they're afraid to be themselves. But they want to be so desperately. So if you ever wonder why the people who attack you most aggressively are the people who see in you something that they can't have. The lady doth protest too much. When people go after something, I promise you there's something hiding in that for them that makes it such a hot button issue for them. Realize just how far you can take things. Realize that you can be yourself. Realize that this world hungers for your voice and not you doing an impression of someone else. And with that, I will leave you, and thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for being a part of this community, for making this community vibrant. Connect with one another. Send us all the ideas that you have, any questions for future episodes, guests you want. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. If you're not already following us, follow us on @InsideQuest. You can follow me at Tom Bilyeu. Until next week, hopefully I will see you guys on Twitter and Instagram. Take care. Thanks for joining us.